Welcome to the first of our semi-finals. From here, the fighting style changes quite a bit. Our 12 machines will now go into head-to-head fights. The losers will then be thrown into the losers melee to get a second chance in the competition. Then they will go into 2 more head-to-head fights, where the winners will then enter the grand finals. The tension racks up here, and it's all to play for. So let's go down to the battle board and see how our first semi-final looks. Coming up, we'll be seeing Rage of the 18 taking on the flipper of Bigger Brother, as well as the newcomers Dan Domke up against 4th seed Chaos 2. But first up, it's the front hinge flipper of Earthquake up against the New Boys and the rear hinge flipper of Siege. Earthquake Flipper. The team's definitely done a lot better this time around than they did with Manta in the last wars, even managing to defeat interesting contender Bite Force. The low wedge, tough armor, and strong flipping armor what got them to the semis. Haven't really had much issues getting here besides a wheel coming loose, but other than that, don't really see much issue for them other than other flippers as well as spinners. Siege Flipper. The first newcomer of the series to make it to the semi-finals, and not a bad run at it either. Despite not really doing much in its opening fight, it definitely showed its mettle when it threw wheels over the wall twice and beat Exterminator. The machine may be slower than most of the machines currently in the semis, but the flipper is very powerful and should very much be looked out for.
Roboteers, stand by.
Earthquake with the front-hinged flipper, and Siege with the rear-hinged flipper.
3, 2, 1.
Siege, also newcomers, and have already impaled themselves by throwing their flipper up and flipping themselves up and over, and Earthquake can take advantage of that. They're very slow. Earthquake can take advantage of that as well, because Earthquake is not slow, they are quick. And they have a very effective flipper. In fact, their flipper is actually working. I don't know what's wrong with Siege, and now is there a problem with the drive for Earthquake? I am not sure. There's smoke. There's smoke coming. I'm not sure where that's from, and I think it might be Earthquake. There's no movement. The flipper's working, but the drive is not going, and I think they are immobilized, and that is such a surprise. And they're out. Earthquake fall, and Siege through. And that is such a shame, because Earthquake were well on top. Siege, very lucky in my opinion, not to fix their flipper. Earthquake, meanwhile, will have to fix their everything in time for the losers melee. Next up, the New Boys, Dan Domke against the 4th seeds, Chaos 2. Dan Domke Flipper. They've done very well for newcomers to make it to the semis. They didn't have any issue against Diotor's Blade, although Dodge Me's gave them a scare before M2 threw them over the wall, before coming back and returning the favor after a rather impressive display in the Death or Glory. Still don't know how they did that. The armor though managing to withstand the bladed attacks, and not overly worried by flippers, just as long as they don't go over the wall. Chaos 2 Flipper. They showed why they dubbed the 4th seed for the competition by throwing almost everyone they came across over the wall while only struggling against really big cheese. It's a small little machine, but it's very nippy with a strong flipper and great drive. Although the competition is very tough this year, and our 4th seeds might just be in major trouble of exiting very early.
Roboteers, stand by.
Dan Domke with the CO2 powered flipper, and Chaos 2 also with the CO2 powered flipper, seated 4th.
3, 2, 1.
There's a lot riding on Chaos 2. They're not as quick as Dan Domke, but they've got a strong flipper, and they're able to get underneath Dan Domke pretty quickly and easily. Dan Domke keeps wheeling. That's not good for them. But Dan Domke can right themselves, which is good. And now they need Chaos 2. And Chaos 2 trying to come in, sort of. I think Dan Tonkia is the one that needs to come back into this, really. Chaos 2 doing all the attacking here. Almost like Dan Tonkia is just running away! But now look at this! Flipped away! And is Chaos 2 okay? I don't think they are! And now they're definitely not, they're on fire! And there, another flip! And out the arena! And that's it for Chaos 2! Out the arena once again! And Dan Tonkia spinning the light as they go through. And a famous victory for Dan Tonkia 2, outgoing the 4th seeds. They've got a lot of repairs to do down in the pits for the losers melee coming up. It's such a shame because, like Earthquake, they too were on top most of the fight. But they go out, Dan Tonkia goes through. Next up, 8th seed Razor up against the CO2 flipper of Bigger Brother. Razor Crusher. They made it to the grand finals last war and are on the road to making it again despite worry against Nexus. Still managed to clear its way through each of its fights and come out victorious. The front wedge towards the crushing beak are a force to be reckoned with if they catch the opposition, but the slowness in the stream make is a problem for them, and that could be taken advantage of. Bigger Brother Flipper. Definitely gone further than they did in the last wars, and even managed to knock out 5th seed Giovatono after they knocked them out in the opening fight. The armor barely taking any serious damage apart from a couple panels and even losing a wheel, although their opponents had already been beaten. The flipper finally showing just how powerful it really is, and just might pull off a few more upsets for the semis.
Roboteers, stand by.
Razor, the 8th seed with the crushing beak, and Bigger Brother with the CO2 flipper.
3, 2, 1.
Nightmare in metal, they say, as they try and flip Razor, not underneath them, unfortunately. And that's given Razor the chance to get underneath Bigger Brother and drop down that crushing beak, which is the power of 9 tons. That's how much pressure is on that tip. 9 tons of squeezability. Bigger Brother flipped up and over. Self-rights, yep, now they do. The pit's gone down, and it's all happening in this. And now Razor drops down Bigger Brother. And that's the end, into the pit. And a very, very, very quick victory for our 8th seeds. And Razor through to the second round. And it was almost very easy for Razor to get underneath Bigger Brother. That's why they're through. Meanwhile, Bigger Brother, no real repairs really. They can just progress through with Earthquake and Chaos 2 into the losers melee to snag a second chance to make the grand finals. Will it be Earthquake? Will it be Chaos 2? Or will it be the Nightmare in Metal Bigger Brother?
Roboteers, stand by.
The losers melee with 3 flippers. One's a front hinge to rear hinge in the forms of Earthquake, Bigger Brother, and 4th seed Chaos 2.
2, 1.
So how will this be? Who has the lower ground clearance? Earthquake throws Bigger Brother. Bigger Brother now throws Chaos 2, who rights themselves. Bigger Brother again throwing over Chaos 2 onto the side. And now, Bigger Brother flipped and thrown out the arena. And now, Chaos 2 throws over Earthquake. And here, we can see the problems they mentioned. How Earthquake struggles self-righting when they're on their back. And we can see firsthand what they meant. But they have now righted. Eventually, I think Chaos 2 was holding them down. Earthquake. Now, are they okay? Earthquake flipped, righted, flipped again. Not over though. Chaos 2. Very much trying to come back into this to show why they were seeded number 4. And we've already seen why. But they are trying to stay in this competition for as long as possible. Earthquake, on the other hand, have never made it this far. They've flipped again and again. Earthquake digging in deep. Chaos 2 trying to fight the ground clearance. Throws them over again. Self-right. And now Earthquake throws Chaos 2 at the arena. And there Chaos 2 lies battered and beaten out of the arena. And it's Earthquake who wins the losers melee back into the main competition, where they will be going up against Dan Tomkia. Commiserations to Chaos 2 and Bigger Brother as they crash out, but well done to Earthquake as they progress through. And this is how round 2 of the semifinals looks, with Earthquake taking on Dan Tomkia, as I mentioned earlier. But first up, 8 Siege Razor taking on the surprise newcomers, Siege.
Robot ears, stand by.
8 Siege Razor with the crushing beak and the CO2 flipper.
3,
Siege, the newcomers.
1.
Very interesting. Oh, there goes the flipper of Siege and Razor pushing in, and because of how Razor fights, the flipper being up for Siege is very, very bad. And I'm wondering if there's a problem with Siege right from the start. There's no movement at all. They seem pretty much dead. And that is such a shame, because they were the first newcomers to make the semifinals. And they are gone. I thought they could have gone all the way. They could have given Razor quite the fight, but nope. Razor places the castle on the flames. And that is such a shame. I very much liked Siege. I thought they could have gone far. They probably could have gone to the grand finals. It would have been great to see, but wasn't to be. Not this time. But a great performance nonetheless from the newcomers. We hope to see them again, but this is the last time we'll see them in the main series for now. And down goes the pit, courtesy of Razor, who will now finish Siege off. And you can see there, they are about to plummet. And a single nudge is all that's needed. And down they go. And that's Siege out. And it's Razor, the 8th Siege, through to the series grand finals. Our first machine there. And who will be joining them? Again, such a shame for Siege to crash out here. They could have gone very far, in my personal opinion. I think there was an electrical component on the floor. That's probably why Siege wasn't moving. That was probably something important. Flung out very early on, but that's what happens sometimes on Robot Wars. Siege are out. Razor through to the grand finals. And for the final fight of the night, the flipper of Dan Tomkia up against the losers melee victors, Earthquake.
Robot ears, stand by.
Earthquake with the front hinged flipper, and Dan Tomkia with the rear hinged flipper. Wonder how
3,
Dan Tomkia is going to do.
2, 1. Activate.
Because we saw there in their earlier fight with Chaos 2 that they do wheelie. So, well, down goes the pit and Earthquake underneath them. And there, Dan Tomkia flown up and over, but Self-Right now has driven into the pit, one wheel caught on the edge, and down they go. And that's a very fast victory for Earthquake, and they go through to the grand finals of Robot Wars with the 8th Siege Razor. One machine breaks down immediately, and the other commits suicide. Our 8th Siege Razor and Earthquake are the first machines into the grand finals. Be great to see how the next semifinal looks. But until then, take care, and I'll see you next time. Farewell.